Thank you for coming out tonight to visit with me in my amazing sweater. So, it has been a really good experience for me to have Sham in the classroom. And I'm excited to talk to you about the things that he is very successful at, as well as how we can keep strengthening those skills, as well as things that he could use a little extra help with, so we make sure we get him on the level he needs to be. Some of the things that I've noticed is that he is a very strong reader. He's one of the strongest readers in the classroom, and he's able to decode words really well. He understands phonics and the sounds that words make. And when it comes to writing, he's also pretty proficient in there too, and is one of our top writers as well. And that has made him really wonderful to work with and to see what skills he's using and what skills he can continue to develop. So in coming to understand Sham's abilities further, I administered some assessments to him. And so I'll just briefly go over those assessments and what they were and why I administered them, and to kind of show you where he's at with that level. The first assessment I administered is what is referred to as, Hawaiian Haystacks, is what's referred to as the Burke reading interview, which is just, it looks like this. This is the form here. So it's just a series of questions of what makes a good reader, what do you do when you come to a word you don't know, and how do you think of yourself as a reader on a scale of 5 to 1, just that kind of thing, judging, giving me a good base of where he's at as a reader. So that was the first assessment I administered to him. The second was actually 3 different running records, which a running record is when he reads a book that he's been reading, he's kind of familiar with, and I follow along and I see where he's making any mistakes and also where he is correct and doing well. And that gives me a sense of if he needs a higher level book because he's very successful at the one he's at, or if he needs a lower book because it's just frustrating for him. So, for example, here's one. We read a book called Trucks. So this was the running record I did for him. You can see all these check marks indicate words he got right. And then there were a couple that he missed, but he corrected himself. So this is what a running record looks like. So I administered 3 of those. And following, I did 3 comprehension, which is just when I asked questions about the text to see if he was not only reading the words, but understanding the words. So this one was for the trucks. I wasn't able to get to all of them, as you can see, but I asked him some questions and he got all of them correct, which is really, really awesome. So those were my running records and my comprehension. Then I also looked at 3 writing samples from his writer's workshop journal, which is something that we do every day. We do some writing in their books. So I took 3 of his stories and used this form to assess what his writing is like in terms of the language level, message, directional principles, just where he's at in terms of what does he understand when it comes to writing and what kind of writing is he composing. And last but not least, I gave what is called a primary spelling inventory, which in its most basic form is just a spelling test. But it has these specific words that you can see here, and he'll continue to be tested on this throughout the years in his schooling experience to see what he can get, what features of the word he understands. So I administered that to him, and he not only gave me words, but also pictures, which was pretty exciting. So those are the assessments that I administered. And based on that, and on that data, and on observational data of seeing Sham in class, Hey Joe.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm filming.
I need something real quick. Don't even mind me.
Jordan, I'm filming for an assignment.
What What's an assignment? Which class?
It's for a literacy class.
Interesting.
Jordan, please, I have to turn this in.
Uh,
I'm not starting
seriously,
over.
continue, you know?
I'm 5 minutes in.
I,
Joe!
oh, what?
Oh my gosh, stop. Okay, Jordan. Now the bird's upset.
Good.
No, get out.
Okay.
Joe.
I'll take it with me.
No, it will get eaten by the cat. Joe. Joe.
You know you love me.
Oh. Okay. Wow, okay. So sorry about that interruption. So, based on those...
I'm returning the bird.
Oh my gosh!
Mom wanted me to tell you that your hemorrhoid cream is here.
Stop! Now you're just being a bum. Get out.
Okay, goodbye.
Oh my heck. The whole family's getting involved. Okay. Dad, I'm filming a video. For class.
Okay.
Oh my, okay. I'm really sorry. Okay. So, based on those assessments and on observing him in class, I wanted to discuss with you some of his strengths and how we can continue to build those strengths, both here at school, what I will be doing, and what you can do at home with him. So Sham is very adept at comprehension. When I asked him those comprehension questions for the 3 texts that we read, he got 100% for 2 of them, and then the third, he got 86%, which means he only missed 1 question, which is very, very impressive for his age level. And it shows me that he is understanding the text that he's reading. They're not just words on a page. And so that is a big strength that he has. And so to continue to build that comprehension strategy at school, I'm going to do 2 things. One being that I will... Sorry, my notes are all mixed up. Okay. I want to teach him about inferential comprehension, which is just different in that the comprehension we're learning now and that we have learned and that he has demonstrated to me is the comprehension that you ask at the end of the text. But I want to teach him inferential comprehension, which is where you pause during the text, you state what you're understanding, what questions you may have, and you make guesses or inferences, that kind of a thing. I think that having that kind of comprehension knowledge will only serve to improve how he's comprehending now. So that's one thing that I want to focus on teaching him. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to keep administering these running records that I showed you. And I'm going to keep doing it with more increasingly complex texts, making sure that he understands that it's at his level and everything of that nature. But I think that continuing to administer these and having him practice that skill of comprehension will really strengthen his overall ability. So I will continue to administer those running records. And at home, a couple ideas for you, would be to have him be reading books that are interesting to him and of course on his level. Because if it's something that he's interested in, he'll be more vested in understanding and comprehending. So making sure he has those kinds of books. And when he finishes one, just sit down with him, ask him, like, what was that book about? Can you tell me what you learned? Another thing you can do is, it's what we call shared reading, I guess. When you're reading with him, you can also demonstrate this idea of inferential comprehension, comprehension. And so when you're reading with him, you can pause and stop during the story and say, like, here's what's happening to me, here's what I understand, here's what I think is going to happen next. Just demonstrating those skills for him will be a strength in helping him gain those skills. Another strength that he has is decoding, meaning that when he comes to a word he doesn't know or is unfamiliar with, He's good at using skills such as he'll look at the first letter and what sound that makes. Then he'll look at the picture and see, does this match the picture? And honestly, when he doesn't know a word and he does that, he looks at the first sound and then the picture, 100% of the time he got the word correctly, which was very impressive to me. So that is a huge, huge strength that he has. I want to continue to build on that. I want to increase that skill. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give an explicit lesson about decoding. We've talked briefly about it and about the skills he's using now we've talked about, but I want to give more skills to him that he can use when he doesn't know a word, so that he can have other things to draw on if his strategy doesn't work. And so I'm going to do that, and I will also give him additional sight words to work on, because there are sight words the class is working on, but he is kind of one step ahead of the game, and I want to give him more sight words that he can be familiar with, so that when he's reading a text, those aren't unfamiliar. He doesn't have to stop to figure those out, but he can focus instead on decoding those more difficult words, because he'll have those sight words down. So I'm going to focus on that as well. And at home, excuse me, one thing is just to encourage him to use his decoding skills rather than just decoding it for him, which can be difficult, but just encouraging him to figure it out and to listen to the sounds and those kinds of things. And if he's still struggling, another thing you could do, have him sound out every sound that he sees, and then you can blend it together for him, and then have him repeat it. So he will also say it blended, and that will just give him the beginning of, okay, I can sound this out, and I can blend it together. And if you practice that skill with him, he should be able to get it, because he's a super sharp kid. Another strength that he has is confidence in his reading ability. When I administered the Burke reading interview, I asked on a scale of 1 to 5 his confidence in reading, and he said 5. Though he did say, I'm still learning, but he is confident that he is a good reader, which is very important. And so I want to continue to help him with that and just increase his confidence even more. I haven't really talked to the kids specifically about confidence, so I want to teach them, first of all, like what that means, how to have confidence in yourself, and I think that will just help him even more to understand what is confidence and why should I have confidence. So that's the first thing I will do at school. And then I'm also going to have him occasionally read out loud to his little reading group that we have. I think that this will help him feel more confident when he can have this oral interaction of reading, that he will be able to see that he really is a good reader, and that will build his confidence as well. So in that same note, things at home where he's comfortable will be really helpful. So having him read out loud to the family will be a very helpful thing as well, and that will help him continue to build his confidence. And along with that, just to provide him with as many reading experiences in the home as possible where he is comfortable and confident, and that will be awesome. Just a couple of quick areas where he, I feel like he needs just a little bit more improvement based on my assessments. When he writes words, he does the first and the last sound, but not the middle sound. So I want to work with him on understanding that there are these middle sounds. So what I'm going to do at school is I want to be more explicit about that, we've worked a lot on beginning sounds and ending sounds, so I want to work now on middle sounds and doing a specific lesson about that. So I will take time to do that. And I'm also going to have a game associated with it where they can practice the middle sounds. It's a game with a car that they are very familiar with, so I will do that as well. And at home, I'm going to give you some slips of paper with words on them at the end of this, and you're just going to have him cut it up so that he cuts out the middle sound and he'll say it to you. He can also say the beginning and ending sound just for practice. And then another thing to have him do at home would to give him a word to write and make sure that he's sounding out every word sounding out every sound as he's writing it. and emphasize, okay, yeah, that's the middle sound. You're sounding it out. Just give him that extra practice. Lastly, before you guys go, the final thing I think he could use just a little bit of extra help with is writing more than one sentence. All of his stories just have one sentence, and we're trying to move on to 2 sentences, and some of his peers are starting to get that, but I think he can do it. He's pretty he's a sharp kid in that sense, so I want to work with him. So I'm going to on occasion give him 2 separate whiteboards. We'll come up with a topic, something that's interesting. For example, like I saw a zebra, and he'll write that sentence on one whiteboard, and on the other he's going to write another sentence that extends that idea. For example, it had stripes or something, so that he can see this whiteboard and this whiteboard connect, but they're 2 different sentences. In addition, when we're doing writer's workshop, I'm going to give him a slip of paper with a check mark box on it. When he's finished, he'll come up to me, and if he has 2 sentences, I'll check off his paper, just so we can encourage, okay, you can keep writing, you can do that. And then at home, I'm going to give you as well a couple books that have 2 sentences on every page I specifically looked for. So just reading those with him and having him read those and explicitly telling him, okay, there's 2 sentences, like, notice here, because reading only serves to help writing. And finally, I would just have him write letters to siblings or you as parents, and having him make sure there's 2 sentences on them, because when he's writing it to somebody he cares about, he's gonna be that much more invested in making sure it's correct. So overall, sorry to keep you late with all the interruptions, but Sham is great. He has strengths in comprehension, decoding, confidence. So here is a paper with all the things I've suggested tonight on how to help him with those things. And then the things that I'm just a little worried about and want him to get some extra help was hearing and writing the middle sounds and writing 2-sentence stories. So here's a paper with that information. There it is as well. So thank you for coming out tonight, and look forward to meeting with you again. Thanks, Dr. Wimmer. Sorry about the interruptions.